Welcome to this Q&A with Haider Rashid, director and author of the film Europa we just saw here at the FILMFEST Hamburg. We are very happy to show this film for the first time here in Germany.
Thank you very much for having me.
I'm very happy to speak with you now about this film we just saw. My name is Dietmar Molthagen. I'm working for the Friedrich-Ebert-Stiftung here in our Hamburg office. We are an independent institution for political education and the proud co-host of this year's veto section at the FILMFEST Hamburg, showing political films and giving out the award, the political film, at the end of this film fest. So, Haider, let's talk about your film, and my first question is about the title. Why did you name it Europa, although it's playing in a very tiny part of this continent?
So the intention for the film was to, of course, have it set on the border between Turkey and Bulgaria, which is the border between Asia, one of the borders between Asia and Europe. And the title came from the beginning. It was sort of really coupled with the concept of the film, because ultimately it's not just a film about the place where it is set, but it's a film about the whole of Europe for us. And it was important that it could have that significance to be a story that is about all the European borders, because these events unfortunately happen on almost every European border. And we wanted to have also an ominous significance for the title.
Haider, most of the time no one is speaking in the film, and I was wondering if you choose to shoot this film with only a few dialogues to show the speechlessness of the European politics and public toward the issues of migration and the heavy border control outside of the EU, or am I completely wrong with this idea?
No, I think it's a very interesting way of reading this artistic choice, and it's the first time that somebody tells me this, so it's very interesting. The idea of having little dialogue came out of the story, out of the necessity of the story. You know, there's a sense of course, in the story and in the journey that migrants travel on borders. You know, there's sometimes a lot of noise because of fights and battles. And, you know, the audience is immersed in this forest, but there's also a lot of silence and loneliness and solitude, which is a feeling that is very, very common for everybody who travels to another place, whether it's legally or illegally. And it's also a feeling, of course, that, you know, many of us, I feel, as European citizens, feel when we speak or we discuss certain topics like immigration or representation. And, you know, I'm half Iraqi, half Italian, so this is very part of my life in a way, on an emotional level. And for me, it's also a way to try and explain, you know, symbolically also how it feels to be an immigrant in Europe, how it feels to be a second generation as well in Europe.
Although there isn't much text in the film isn't quiet at all. So we're hearing Kamal breathing most of the time, and yeah, we are very close to him during the whole film. You're really enabling us to see the world through Kamal's eyes and almost feel his fear and pain alongside him. Did you decide to focus on one person rather than showing us several stories of flight, like in the opening scene might have suggested, when we could see many refugees trying to cross the border?
One of the things that shocks me the most about journeys that migrants take is the fact that, you know, you have these sort of temporary communities that are formed along the journey. They really feel like families, you know, in the span of days or weeks. You try to support each other and to travel together. But ultimately, unfortunately, every person is on their own in the end, you know, and every person could end up on their own. So for me, really focusing on one character and making his survival and his resilience and his suffering a symbol for every other character that travels along that route was really the most important part. And as you said earlier, you know, his breathing is very important. You know, it was very clear for Sonia Giannetto and I, who wrote the film with me and edited the film with me, that breathing was going to be the thing that would keep the film going. even the cuts in the edit are made on his breathing, you know. So through this non-dialogue, which is really a dialogue for the film, we try to create, you know, sometimes a symbiosis, sometimes a contrast, but it was very important to make sure that, you know, the audience knew enough about the character to be with him, but not too much so that it would be just a story about one person, you know, one character. Mm-hmm. But really the idea of loneliness and solitude and feeling lost, you know, was the center was the core of the concept.
Kamal is not shown only positive as well. He killed a man, and by this he's not the friendly victim, but also a perpetrator himself. Why did you choose to give your leading figure this ambivalence?
I think, you know, this is something that we debated at length with Sonia when we were writing the script. You know, for me, initially, the idea was to really work on the concept of empathy with the audience, of trying to question their feelings of empathy and rejection sometimes. We didn't want the film to be too much in one direction or another. You know, we wanted really to feel, for the audience to feel close to him, not because of political reasons, but because of human reasons. And the fact, you know, being imperfect is not a justification for being considered good or bad, you know, it's just human nature. And what we decided in the end was that it was necessary at that point of the story to sort of turn the tables and, you know, make sure that the concept at the core of the film was survival. That was really the most important thing. Mm-hmm. And, you know, it can really push you in any direction when you're in a bad situation. And this happens every day, you know, everywhere in the world, whether you're a migrant or not a migrant. Sometimes decisions, you have to do things to save yourself. What happens in the end, of course, is that he has a conscience. He is aware of what he's done. He is aware that he has killed somebody. And he, of course, he regrets it because that was never his intention. And I think it's good for a film to leave the audience with questions, with doubts, you know. And again, if you're able to go past this mistake, in a way, this murder that came out of survival, I think you can really break through and understand that in the end, he's just a young man, young boy trying to have a better life, ultimately.
How did you work on this film? I'm sure you spoke to many refugees, and I guess you were in this area, in the border region between Turkey and Bulgaria yourself?
Well, I've most of my work has been about immigration and issues of identity or citizenship. I've always, you know, I feel very close to these issues. They're part of my upbringing, they're part of my family in a way. And it seemed like a natural evolution to focus on this story specifically. In 2016, I made a VR documentary called No Borders, which was about self-run reception centers in Italy. And that gave me the opportunity to speak with a lot of people who were crossing the Mediterranean and get a bit closer to them, you know, right after they've taken the journey or actually on their journey. And when I found out about what was happening and what is still happening today on the Balkan route, it shocked me. The idea that there would be people hunting other people. And initially, we thought it was for political reasons. And then we understood that it was more about money because it's a huge business, you know, sometimes bigger than the drug trade. So it really came out of a civil feeling, you know, of saying, I'm a European and I'm a European of Arabic origins, of foreign origins, and I need to talk about this topic. And the amazing thing was that all our crew and, you know, as I said, Sonia, who wrote with me, and our DP and everybody who was involved in the project felt this passion. It really felt like a family endeavor. And it was incredible to experience, you know. And you see in the beginning of the film, we have the scene at the border where the migrants are crossing. And it was really important for us to also maintain realism there. So for example, a lot of the extras who played in that were people who actually traveled on the Balkan route. and lent their time. And it was really amazing to see and to hear from them how close they felt to what was happening. And in a way, it was also a cathartic experience. You know? So this was the ultimate goal, to tell this story, tell it in a way that would be strong and extreme and immersive. Because I think, you know, in this day and age, it's hard to break through unless you have a very, you know, strong approach. It was important for me and for Sonia and everybody who was involved in the film to make sure that we wouldn't close the door, so that we would fight at least our pessimism in how we see the situation. And something happened while we were researching in Bulgaria. We were talking to a human rights lawyer, and I was telling her, you know, how negative I felt about the whole situation. And she said, that is totally understandable, but remember that people who take Balkan, people who travel across the Mediterranean, everybody who migrates never loses hope. So you can't afford to close the door. You can't afford to lose hope in the end of your film. So it's true that we don't know what happens to the character. We don't know where he's been before. We don't know where he's going to be afterwards. But at least there is the possibility that something good could happen, or we don't know. So this is for the audience to wonder and figure out.
Thank you very much for this talk, Haider Rashid, director, author, and producer of the film Europa. And thank you for your very political film that took us to the border of the EU, to the border region between Turkey and Bulgaria, and showed us the open wound of European values there. All the best to you. We wish you a lot of success with your film in upcoming festivals. And I very much hope we can meet again here at the FILMFEST Hamburg or somewhere else with this movie or with the next one. Thanks very much, Haider Rashid.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me and for selecting the film. We're thrilled to have it in Germany. Thank you.